Lavalla grew up in Vermont and served in active duty in Iraq twice. Today he serves as a full-time recruiter for the National Guard. With his immense help, we had the best Veterans Day ever. I'd like to remind all of you to be quiet and respectful and that any questions will be answered later. Now I'd like to present to you Mr. Levi Lavalla.
Before we start, I'm just going to present the banner that we had hanging up at the armory. This is for you guys to keep in here. So, want to help me, bud? Pull it out.
We love presents.
Oh yeah. You can take that in. So everyone saw this, right? All the old people.
God.
These are all old veterans from like the early 1900s. So this is for you guys to keep up here. Try to find a place for it. I hold it up every day. 2 people.
We'll hang it right up in the hallway.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I know I was supposed to come here and talk about career opportunities, but I'm going to open this up because I want you guys to be involved. So any questions that you have, feel free to ask. I'll go over a typical day for a National Guard drill, but other than that, if you have any questions about jobs, what we do, just go ahead, feel free to raise your hand and ask. Thank you very much. Alright, so I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty new to the National Guard. I came on active duty for 9 years, so I'm kind of new to this just like you guys. So if you have questions, I'll try to answer. If I don't know it, I'm not going to lie. But I will come back and get you the answer. So who knows the main difference between National Guard and active duty? Where's the, I know someone does. Where is she? The recruiter's daughter.
Oh,
You.
Kiara.
So I met your dad, I think.
Oh.
So what's the main difference between National Guard and active duty?
Well, the National Guard, I heard, like, at least what my dad had said is that they don't usually, get, it's kind of hard to say. Like, they don't usually, get sent out.
Okay, so their deployments are a little bit less. Now, as far as your dad works full-time, right?
Yeah.
Like 5, 6, 7 days a week as a recruiter. Most National Guard soldiers are 1 weekend a month. So they come in for, it's called drill. So here in St. Albans, it's up by the high school, everyone knows. You saw where it was, the big tank. That's where everyone comes to drill 1 weekend a month. And then they do 2 weeks in the summer usually. They go to Fort Drum or a certain location where they just train for 2 weeks. Active duty, it's your jobs pretty much 7 days a week. So we're on call no matter what. That's our job. We're a soldier. National Guard, you have your civilian job, and then you come in your 1 weekend to do your separate job. So you could have 2 different jobs. Your civilian job and then your National Guard job. It can be the same as what you do on the civilian side, or it can be different. It all depends on what you want to do. So who knows some of the jobs in the Army? We'll start naming them off.
There's engineering.
Engineer, that's what I am. So that's the best job. Pilot, okay. Okay, now we're getting more to the Air Guard. We don't really talk about those people. Yeah, we have the aviation mechanics, that's one of them. Okay, someone else. I'm going to pick on people now. You know any of the jobs? No? So what's a job in the civilian world? You don't know? Like a doctor? That's a job, isn't it? We have those in the National Guard. Who doesn't want to be picked on? You right here, bud. Yep.
Like mechanic?
Okay, mechanics, yep. We have mechanics. So pretty much anything that you can do on the civilian side, we have in the National Guard. So if you're trying to serve your country within the same position that you do on the civilian side, there's most likely something for you in the National Guard. A typical drill consists of coming in on usually a Saturday morning. You come up to the unit, you'll have a formation, usually about 7 o'clock, then you'll get ready right into training. The training could be anything from going out and doing stuff in the woods, doing a rough march, which means with a big backpack, you go walk for a few miles in the cold. You can do, they're getting ready to do winter training, so they're going to go up to Jericho, do set up like the winter tents, the winter stoves, go out and kind of play in the cold. So it's a little bit of fun. You gotta have fun, otherwise it's just another job. They'll go out there, they'll train, they'll stay the night, so they'll stay outside. They'll come back here on a Sunday, they'll refit, which means they'll clean up their gear, make sure everything's good to go for the next drill. And then Sunday afternoon, they'll usually leave about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then that's it for the month. Then they'll meet up again the following month. So this happens every month, one weekend out of the month. So that's where the main differences are between National Guard and active duty. You're not a full-time soldier. You're here as a National Guard to serve the state. So if there's an emergency within the state. So what's one of the big emergencies that just happened, like a natural disaster? Anyone in Vermont? Irene? Was it Irene?
Oh, yeah.
So Sandy, there you go. I wasn't here for that. I was down in South Carolina, but so the Guard was there. Actually, Massachusetts and Maine sent some engineers to help with all the road repairs and cleaning up the roads. So that's our purpose, because we are here for the state. Active duty, they are bigger picture. So that's why you see them deploy more. For National Guard, that's why we deploy less, because we're here to serve the state. Although we are there for the president to use in a time of emergency. So that's why they do deploy, just not as much. Any questions about, go ahead, bud.
Isn't another not a joke, but every once in a while, my uncle's in the National Guard. He's an engineer. Every once in a while, don't you have a run allowed like that?
Okay, so you're talking about the PT test?
Yeah.
Alright, so to be in the military, you have to stay within the standards of physical fitness. And what we do is, it's called the PT test. So you do 2-mile run, 2 minutes of push-ups, and 2 minutes of sit-ups. And you got to be within a certain amount of points to pass. And if you fail, I know active duty, you would be put on a program where you pretty much have to do PT like twice a day until you can pass. Otherwise, you get kicked out. National Guard, it's kind of the same thing. If you don't pass, you get another chance. National Guard is more about you working by yourself, trying to improve yourself. It's harder because you only drill 1 weekend a month. So it's on you to make sure you stay physically fit, to make sure you're at drill. Active duty, you have a supervisor who's pretty much there every day, making sure that you're doing PT. You have formations every day. So National Guard is a little more lenient. You gotta kind of keep track of yourself and make sure you're motivated enough to do it. So that's the PT test. Anything else? Any other questions about what you do on like a drill weekend as far as showing up? And who's had an MRE before? One. So little meals ready to eat, like the little brown bags. Yeah. Most likely that's what you eat on a drill weekend. Sometimes they have hot chow. So the cooks will make a meal right at the unit. But you don't get, sometimes they let you go out in St. Albans and kind of go to the business, but most likely the people just want to save their money. So they'll eat at the unit, usually it's the MREs or like a big, they're in big containers, and then the cooks just kind of make the meals up and everyone eats together. Any other questions as far as the drill? Yep.
I like kind of like the work thing. Like, can you be a lawyer in the National Guard? Like, there are lawyers that can defend.
Yep, so it's called JAG. They also have paralegal specialists. So they are down at Camp Johnson. Those jobs are, there's a few of them, not as many open just because that's the one spot is down in Camp Johnson. But yeah, you have the legal specialists, you can have doctors, you can have pretty much any job in the civilian sector you can have in the National Guard, because we always need to fill those positions too for our side. So if there's a person who's qualified on the civilian side, it's best for the Guard to go after those people and for those people to join the Guard, because they can serve in both positions and it kind of benefits them. They're helping people out, they get paid, for the drill weekend. Possibly if they have school debt for officers, or if you score high enough, you can get student loan repayment. So it benefits both the guard and the person joining. So there are positions, higher positions like doctors, lawyers in the guard. Saw someone else had a hand up.
Do you know what MRE stands for?
I do. Does anyone here know what it stands for? Any guesses? No, you don't know? There you go. Any other questions?
Levi, so you're an engineer.
Yep.
So what's the benefit to being an engineer in the guard as opposed to being an engineer in the private section, as far as, you know, you having control of your life or whatnot? Why one or the other?
Okay, so for me, the guard question is a little bit difficult to answer because I'm full-time. But as an engineer in the guard, what you can do, you're serving your community. So if there's a state of emergency, you'll be there to help them. As far as engineering goes, you can get the training, the certifications through the military, so you're not paying for it at all. The military is paying for all the training. So if you have a job on the civilian side that's engineer or engineer related, the military is going to kind of enhance your skills. They're going to pay for the training to go to AIT, to go to the schools. So they're pretty much helping you on the civilian side because they're going to give you that chance to get a raise or that chance to move up. And that's the way we like to look at it. A lot of these places around here in St. Albans, you got to work with the businesses because you're helping their employers pretty much kind of move up. If they're trying to help their employers, they're not having to pay for it, business. We're pretty much giving them the training to make themselves better. And that's a good way to look at the guard. You're kind of bettering yourself and helping the community. It's not, yes, you're taking advantage of what we have to offer, but the guard is also there. You're going to serve the guard with a purpose. You're going to be there for the community, and in the time of, if you do have to deploy, it's always a possibility. So it's advantageous for both groups, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? So I'm an engineer, but I was also a drill sergeant. I worked in a prison while I was active duty, so I've served quite a few different roles. So if there's any questions as far as different jobs, what you do on some of the jobs, just go ahead, raise your hand, and I'll try to answer.
Well, when I'm saying this, I don't mean the obvious examples. What are the differences between land, naval, and Air Force National Guard? Like, I don't mean just the fact that they're based on the land, sea, or air.
Okay, so Vermont we have the Air Guard and the Army Guard, right? So the Air Guard is kind of our people who we compete against, but Air Guard is pretty much the Air Force. So they're the ones who work down at Burlington. You know where the big, nice new building is, right by Pizza Putt? Yeah, that fancy building. They get all that fancy stuff. They stay inside, kind of working on the airplanes. They do all the repairs. We, as the Army National Guard, we have the armories within like the community. So here in St. Albans, we have the one in Petersburg. We do all the stuff, training-wise, where we actually go out and get dirty, go to the field, shoot weapons, do the cool training, and then you still get the benefits. Not to say that the Air Guard, you get good benefits, you get college, you get all that stuff. It's just a matter of preference on what you want to do. If you want to go out to the field and kind of be in the woods, do a little bit of training with weapons. Air Force side, it's more technical. You're inside, you're working on the airplanes, you're going to more schools, technical schools, but it's not the side where you actually get to go out and have some fun. That's the way I see it.
Why do like the Army and Navy like compete with each other? Aren't they going to like the same goal?
You talking probably about like the Army-Navy football game?
Not the football game, but like I said that wrong. Like Air Force and like.
It's so everyone knows the rivalry between BFA and FU supposedly, right? You always have you get along, but there's always that kind of, oh, I'm better than you, you're better than me. That's just the military. You always want to think you're better than the other group or other person. So it's just a little, it's not a bad camaraderie, it's just something where, oh, but in a time of need, everyone comes together, right? So, yes, we may be, it's like brothers, you always fight, right? But if someone's gonna come and pick on them, you're gonna defend them or you're gonna stick up for them. That's how the services are. We may not get along all the time, but in the end, we all fight for the same purpose, so it's just a little fun.
So by
Yeah.
trying to be better than them, you're actually making yourself better.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they're doing the same thing.
Yeah, we all have our good and bad. The Army, Navy, they all have their flaws and they all have their pluses. So it's kind of a fun little bashing, I say.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions?
Could you speak a little bit about your active duty? Because these kids, when we talk to these kids about things in the past, they're so young we forget how young they are. So what do they know about Afghanistan or all of that sort of stuff? And you've been there or you've been to Iraq? Whatever,
so-
if you could share.
I joined in 2006. It was about a year and a half after I graduated high school. Within a year, okay, so my first duty station was Alaska, which was awesome. When I got to Alaska, within a year I deployed to Iraq, and that was in 2007. So has anyone heard of the Iraqi surge? So that's when pretty much they sent a lot of troops into Iraq in about 2007, 2008 to kind of control the area a little bit more. That's when the fighting had picked up and there was a lot more battles going on, and they needed more people as far as engineers to come and build out. They're called patrol bases. So the infantry guys, everyone knows infantry, right? They're the ones who actually go around walking. They're the ones who shoot. We were building, they're called patrol bases, so wherever they lived, or if they had a place where they need built up to do all their patrols out of, or go do security checks, we would build up all the buildings for them. As engineers, we'd make sure that they had a secure place to live. My job would make sure they have like a nice place to live. So we'd make them bunk beds, we'd make them showers, we'd make them anything to kind of feel at home. We also make them, so all the windows, we'd have to build like little platforms and then put sandbags on, so that way they don't get shot. Just security positions, so they're a little more safe. That was my deployment in 2007 to 2008, and that was about 10 months. My second deployment was in 2011. That one was a little bit different because I worked in a prison. So, who knows Saddam Hussein? Anyone? Who was it? Can you
He was
tell me?
kind of like a terrorist, not a terrorist, but did he put a bounty on the person's head or the person's father?
Okay, but who knows exactly what Saddam was?
Saddam was a dictator in Iraq.
Okay, there you go. So in this prison, it was the very last terrorist, and his cousin was one of the ones that was there. So I got to work inside the prison where the last major detainees were, the major terrorists. Everyone knows like a little deck of cards they had with faces on them. A lot of those guys were on there. We repaired this prison. We put $2.5 million worth of repairs. I worked with Turkish guys. So in active duty, you get to work with a lot of different people, a lot of different countries. And this was a pretty cool experience because I got to work with Turkish people. Every day they would come in, you'd think I'd get to work, but no, we have tea, we have bread, and then they sit for like an hour and just talk. So it's kind of interesting to see different cultures, how they work. And then throughout the day, they just randomly stop, and then you have hot tea and chat, so it's kind of nice. They bring like big loaves of bread all the time. So they spoil you. It's kind of weird because as an Army guy, you're used to working like constantly throughout the day, and it was nice to take the little breaks and just chit chat and kind of talk amongst the people. Even though there was like 2 people who speak English or spoke English, so the other ones you kind of have to translate through, but they would always laugh at you and you'd laugh at them because they have no clue what you're saying or you have no clue what they're saying. But it was a good time. It was definitely a learning experience working with foreign nationals. you gotta be able to adapt and overcome, because they may think one thing is right, but as my job as an engineer, I have to make sure that they're doing the job to our standards. So you gotta be able to kind of tell them, hey, this is wrong, try to do it our way. It's gotta be within, because they're still working for you, so you have to be able to kind of interact with everyone. That was my second deployment, and that was in 2011. And once we left that area, it kind of was a bad situation because the Iraqis took it over, and within like a month they destroyed it. Like all the prisoners who were still in there were set free. So it was kind of disappointing to see that all the work that we did was pretty much for nothing. And that's just like the situation now. All the stuff that we did in Iraq, it seems like it's not going anywhere just because of the current situation. But it's definitely a job that I would not trade for the world. I thought I would be done in 4 years. I thought I'd just join, get the training I needed, and then be done. But here I am at almost 10 years. So 10 more years and I'm done, hopefully. Any other questions? No? Oh.
This might be a little off topic, but if you're comfortable answering, how do you think the United States should take action against ISIS?
Oh man, I can talk to you off topic. I could answer.
You can answer as honestly as you feel. These kids are used to hearing both sides.
For me, being in the military, our job is to fight. So we have a large military, and we have other countries that support us. I would say everyone just needs to come together and get rid of the problem. That's what I think, in nice terms. But that's the way I think. I mean, this whole thing about the refugees and everything, I don't think that should stop. I think it's kind of stupid to not help people. You're not gonna be able to weed out everyone. There's always bad people. But you gotta be careful of, this bombing is not working, obviously. It's just gonna move them from one place to another. You need to actually get people down there to go find them and pretty much destroy them. That's the way I feel.
So boots on the ground, you think?
That's what I think. I mean,
Yep.
that's what I'd like. That's my job. I like to deploy. It may sound, a lot of soldiers, that's how they feel once they come back. Like I haven't deployed in almost 4 years, so it's a very long time to not deploy. Once you go over once, it kind of, I mean, Sergeant Lynn probably can attest, maybe. You feel the same way?
I never deployed.
Yeah, oh, okay. So for most who deployed, they want to go back within like the first year or two. Just, it's a different lifestyle. I mean, you're constantly working, so yes, you miss family, but you know you're there for a purpose. You know you're there to help the country and help, hopefully, the world. So that's the way I feel.
It is with boots on the ground, is that we're obviously going to have casualties, but is it less collateral damage? Is that the benefit to that as opposed to massive bombing raids?
It's less collateral, but it's also just the fact that it's face to face. Like these ISIS guys they don't see any of us, so they can just, it's like the internet. They can say whatever they want, and they know no one's gonna, all these bullies on the internet.
Right.
No one's gonna do anything about it. Everyone talks crap to each other. Well, wait till I get in your face, and then let's see how it goes. Especially with the commandos we have in like special forces, Delta forces, all these guys are trained very well to work in small teams, and they can hunt out these people very well. And then once you get the infantry, like the big numbers, if they just put them all in at once, one big surge,
Right.
it could be like in the Gulf War. It'd be done very quickly. That's the way I feel. But with the PC political correctness and everyone wanting to hold hands and not, yeah, it's, the way the world is today, I don't think it's ever really going to happen until something big,
Right.
like all the attacks, like terrorists. And I don't know if anyone saw like the video where supposedly there was a suicide bomber in New York. They made a video and he was making the bomb, and then they had a picture of the Times Squares, but they found out he actually wasn't in Times Squares, but they are threatening big cities, like they're there, and even in this community, we get letters like the armories from supposed ISIS members saying, oh, we're here, and so it's just a matter of time.
Do you think that would be the straw that sends us in? I mean, would that be the final, act of defiance as if they attacked us? I mean,
I would hope so.
that's what drove us into a frenzy at 9/11, and you would think, that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that would be the final straw, that would be it.
I would hope so. I mean, I think it's on what the people feel though,
Right?
and the people being the ones in charge. And it seems that they do a lot of knee-jerk reactions, just like the refugee things. All
Right.
these people saying, oh, I'm not going to accept them. But then you have the president, so it's kind of, they think they're making the people happy, but they don't think about what they're doing. And I think it's going to take a little bit of time. I think if there's small attacks, it's going to take them a little bit more time. If there's one big one maybe, or if it's something huge, then I think it's finally going to
Right.
have the whole, not just the US, but just like NATO again, everyone coming together. Hopefully, even Russia's talking about, and China now too.
Yeah?
I know China was talking about actually.
I mean, it pissed everybody out.
So I think
Incredible.
if everyone could just come together, I think that's going to be the main thing.
Yeah. How about the role, we spoke the other night a little bit about the role of social media in today's warfare. You want to,
All right, so who's on Twitter or all this stuff in here? Someone, like at least what, 3/4 of you?
oh my God, yeah,
Like-
Twitter, Facebook, all those
like
things, raise your
7, 8.
hand.
All right, so this is how you probably get all your information right, all your gossip, all the news, all the school. So what would happen if you got rid of all this stuff? What would you do? Would you actually like talk to each other and like
Send letters.
send letters and
Old school, like 5 days to get a letter. Hey, how you doing?
yeah, you'd actually have to talk. So for the military, what we were talking about, who watches the news or who sees the news or who kind of pays attention? Most of it is negative, right? And what do you get as far as pictures of the military or the services? Kind of a negative light. There's nothing really positive that they say or portray. So when we deploy, our job is to what? Hopefully to get rid of the enemy, right? Now, the social media, they like to show what's up.
The point when you get deployed is to attack and kill the others before they kill you.
Okay. And now a lot of people don't like to see that, right? Now the news likes to portray us in a bad picture, not us, but just the military. Some of the stuff that we do, yes, it's bad, but it's for a reason. The media, we were talking about, I feel, is kind of a hindrance because it gives away too much information. It'd be best, the way I was seeing is, if we just got rid of the media, if it just blacked out for like maybe a month or two, let us do what we need to do, and then it came back on. All of you, not just you, but the whole country, would not really know. Not to say it's bad to know what's going on, but there's certain things that the media puts out there to kind of stir people and to make them go against what should be, what is right. So if you got rid of the media, or at least they had limitations, they couldn't go to deployments, our job would be kind of much easier, because you're not always having to worry about what you're doing. Your job is to go there to get rid of the enemy, destroy the enemy, and then come back. If you have limitations, it's a little bit harder because you're worrying about it yourself. If you're doing something wrong, if the person that you are going after is kind of being looked at in a different light, because there's supporters now of ISIS because of the media. They are like 18, 19-year-olds who came up in like a broken home, like over on the Paris, France side, there's what, some of the supporters are people who are from there, but they had broken homes and they saw ISIS and they saw their videos, so they kind of found something that would accept them, and then they just joined the group. So the stuff like that, the media is kind of a hindrance. It is good though, some of the reporting that they do, so it's not all bad. But most of it is. Yes, ma'am.
You spoke a bit about refugees, and of course we've been hearing a lot in the news about Syrian refugees.
Yes.
Can you talk about what you observed during your deployments and what conditions might force people to become refugees or to seek to leave refugees?
I mean, when I went to Iraq, it was a little bit different, but just the pictures I've seen from Syria, just the buildings and where they live, it looks kind of like just a massacre. Everything's destroyed. I couldn't imagine living there for even like a week. I know in Iraq, the living conditions weren't great. The buildings were always dirty, and just finding food and getting food and being the constant fear of being attacked all the time. You'd see civilians just on the side of the road, or we'd be in buildings that we took over. We'd have guys come in that got shot, so we'd have to kind of help them out. But I know it's 10 times worse for them in Syria right now. It's pretty much everyone for themselves, and every day they have that fear of getting shot or killed. So I can see why thousands, hundreds of thousands of people want to leave their country. It's just a matter of the other countries doing their service to helping, but also making sure that they're helping their people within their country to make sure that no harm is going to come to them through these refugees, because there's so many of them, you can't document who, you don't know if all of them are there for what they say. So based on my experience, I mean, our job is to help people. I think everyone should help people. It's just a matter of doing it the right way. Taking them in, I can see, it's just making sure that we have all the right steps to do it. Because you can't just take them in and put them places, and then you got to make sure you track them, make sure there's steps in there to ensure like our country's safety. But I don't see any reason not to. I mean, that's ultimately, I think our goal is to help other people, and it should be the whole world. Yes, you're gonna have bad guys, but they're trying to play, I think, the countries. And like they said, that's what they want, is for us not to accept them, because that's just gonna make them feel bad towards the United States, and some of them might become supporters eventually of these terrorist groups. So, does that kind of answer your question? So, but
How do people from the National Guard get deployed out to wherever they go? Like, is it kind of in the draft system, or do they just all go?
So each state kind of gets, it all depends on what they need. So Vermont, the last time they deployed was 2010, 2011, I believe, to Afghanistan. That was pretty much the whole brigade, so it was like, I think close to 2,000 people that deployed. Right now, Vermont has 2,900 soldiers, so that is a lot of the soldiers in Vermont. It's pretty much the needs of what the cycle is for what state deploys next. It's called a R4Gen cycle. So it's pretty much, you have a cycle of where you train to deploy, you deploy, and then you come back and reset. For National Guard, it's a little bit longer than active duty. Usually it's about 5 years for National Guard. Active duty, it used to be like 2 years. So you used to deploy like every 2 years. You do your deployment, come back, reset, you train, and then you get ready to go back. That's all on the needs of what they need over there, what the deployment is looking like as far as troops. So the Guard is a little bit, like I said, it's a little bit longer period between deployments than active duty. But there's no certain, like, they don't have like little groups that go. It's usually at least a company or bigger, so at least a couple hundred soldiers. Every now and then you'll have like 1 or 2 soldiers who need to go help, like train a certain group, or if there's positions that need to be filled, you can volunteer for it, but most likely it's on a cycle. Any other questions?
How did you just get started, going back to the job aspect of it?
Yep.
You were at a high school and you decided, I think I'll go here. And then what does that entail? I mean, the real nuts and bolts of it. You sat down with somebody like you now and signed up?
Well, this was interesting because I actually joined in high school for the National Guard. I was supposed to be a 19 Delta, a Cap Scout. I did about 8 months of drills in the National Guard, and then I graduated high school. And once I graduated high school, I kind of had a change of heart. So I pretty much told the recruiter, look, I'm not going to do the National Guard. So I took about a year and a half between high school and when I actually joined. I was working, I just worked jobs around here. I had got accepted to Johnson State, but I felt it was best to join the service. It just helped me discipline-wise, give me a little bit of drive. It's something I need to get out of Vermont for a while. Travel, I got to go to Alaska, Kansas, Iraq twice, South Carolina. So it was good for me. So I kind of had an idea out of high school that I was going to join the service. So when I did join, I pretty much went to the active duty guy and told him, hey, this is what I want. I want a job that I can use when I do get out. And it was very simple because I knew what I wanted and I wanted to go quickly. A lot of people nowadays, they have kind of commitment problems. They say they want to do one thing. So it takes, for me, my job is a little bit harder because they want to talk to me. They have questions, but they'll come to me like one day with the questions. I'll talk to them, and then we'll try to set up another appointment. And it'll be like 2 to 3 weeks before I see them again because they just decide to fall off the face of the earth or they have other stuff going on. So it's a little bit harder nowadays to actually sit down with the applicants and kind of discuss to get the full effect, how it's going to benefit you, how quickly you can leave, and tell them all the details that they need to know in one time, because you don't get that time to sit with them. It's a little bit harder to actually bring them into the armory up here and just sit down and talk to them. When I joined the first time in the National Guard, I walked right over to the armory, and that's where I talked to the recruiter. So the process is a lot longer nowadays too, just because all the medical stuff that you have to go through. There's 164 questions for the medical portion, so they got to make sure that you're qualified before you even go down to MEPS. So it takes a little bit, especially if you've had surgeries, if you had any issues, asthma, anything like that. You got to get all your documentation, and then we have to bring it down with us to Albany. So it takes a little bit longer to get the whole packet complete. But usually, if you have an applicant who wants to join and they have all the documents, it could be about 2 weeks. If you have all the paperwork and get them down to Albany to get the contract. It used to be you could get them done in like 3 days.
Educational prerequisites?
So educational, high school diploma or equivalent. In order to get all the benefits, so who's heard of the ASVAB besides a couple of you? So the ASVAB is a test you take. Hopefully BFA is going to get it soon. And it just tells you where you are as far as what jobs you can qualify for in the military. In order to qualify for like a bonus or the student loan repayment, you have to get at least a 50 on your AFQT. So that's the goal when you take it, is to shoot for the 50. In order to join, you have to have above a 30. They have the categories, category 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for each category 1 is 50 or above. So that's what everyone should shoot for, because that qualifies you pretty much for any job. And then any of the incentives, like the student loan repayment, the bonuses.
What's it like when you're sitting doing something and then somebody just deploys you and then you're on the field fighting for your people? What is it like?
I wouldn't know, it's been a while.
Okay.
Now, as a recruiter, unfortunately as a recruiter, I don't deploy. The recruiters stay back, so if the unit did deploy, I would be here trying to find people to fill positions. But you usually have a pretty good amount of time of notice, like when you're going to deploy. So it's at least a half a year most likely, because they got to train the unit. You got to go through the training cycle of going down and doing all your paperwork, making sure all your life insurance is set, making sure your family's taken care of. So most of the times they won't just say, hey, we're deploying. You get a fair amount of warning. Crickets.
So just because I want these guys to understand that, because a lot of them say, well, what are you going to do? I don't know. I'll join the service. It's not that easy anymore.
No, not at all.
And that's what they need to know. It's not like I can't find anything else. I think I'll do this.
That's it. Who has family or who's kind of thought about the military or any inkling of military? All right, so quite a bit of you. All right, so why? Just some of you, tell me why you would like to join or what interests you about joining the military. So over here, someone had their hand up. Was it you?
I think I might want to join because I get to help my country. So I get to fight to help them and not just to let people come in and destroy what we have built.
Okay. So the military, everyone thinks that we're there to find them. You should really look at it as like a job interview, like a second job. We're not here to just fill the ranks with people in order to kind of send them away. We want quality people, and it's getting harder to join. When you come to talk to a recruiter, if you still are interested in a couple of years, look at it as a job interview. Come kind of professionally dressed, because that gives the recruiter, the person you're talking to, the impression that you want to be there. Don't come in with kind of gym shorts and like a t-shirt. When you do have facial hair with a beard, because military you can't have facial hair, so you're kind of showing, hey, I want this position, so I'm going to kind of act like I'm already in it. And then once you do show the recruiter that you have some interest, that you really are in it for not just yourself, that you want to do it to better yourself, to help your country. Yes, there are the benefits. You can get the student loan repayment, you can get bonuses. But ultimately, you got to know that you might deploy, you might be sent away to fight. So you got to have that in the back of your mind. And then you're going to pass all the physical and mental, all the hard stuff. So it used to be the medical portion was like 74 questions. Now it's 164. So they go pretty in depth. So if you've ever had concussions, if you've ever had any type of counseling, a whole bunch of crazy stuff. And as long as you answer truthfully and get all the documentation, it's not as hard. But it comes to where there's certain things that can stop you now that you could get in very easily. So if you do want to join, you got to be careful of, one is stay out of trouble is the main thing. Do good in school so you have your high school diploma. And then just make sure you're around good people, like positive people. Those are the three things that I say. Stay around positive people is the main thing. Because if you're around negative people, they're just going to bring you down all the time. And then most likely you'll be in trouble. And law violations is another thing. If you have certain law violations, you are not going to get in anymore. It used to be they'd take people with law violations, but now with the way the military is going, there is any inkling of like sexual harassment, sexual assault, anything even close to that where there's a complaint against you, there's no way you're ever going to get in. So even as a teenager, you can get something filed against you, even though it might not have happened. If you say something wrong or it goes into your record, that's going to stop you from joining. So it's definitely a lot harder nowadays, for sure. So if you are thinking about it, make sure you're staying on the straight and narrow and stay with positive people. That's the main thing. Yep.
How many concussions do you have, like, until you, or like, how many concussions can you have until you can't join the military?
There's not really a certain number. It all depends on the doctor down there and if they're documented. Documentation is the main thing. If you say you've had concussions or if you've had an injury but there's no proof, and you go down there, they're going to be, okay, where's the proof? Give me something to show that you actually had this. And if you can't do that, then it's going to take a little bit longer because you have to go to the doctor and kind of backtrack even though they have no proof of it. So that's where it gets a little tricky, and that's where it's harder now. other questions? And it's harder because I'm a former drill sergeant, so I don't want horrible people joining the Army. I've seen a lot of bad people down at Fort Jackson, and I don't want to send those type of people away. So if you really do want to do it, I'm going to help you. Like, my job is to help kids, not just kids, but people in the community. If they want to do this, I will help them. I'll get all the paperwork done. But if they're just going to be like, hey, okay, here's the paperwork, I'll get it to you next week, I will be like, okay, sorry. I would rather help this person who wants to join. So it's all on you. If you want to do it, I will help you.
They have to be 18.
They can be 17, so 30 days within their 17th birthday is when they can actually do all the paperwork. They just have to have parental consent.
Yeah.
And then 35 is the cutoff for the max.
Does BFA have a program, ROTC or any of that?
BFA does not. I know Enosburg does. I'm trying to get the ASVAB back in there so they can at least take the test if they want to. It's not going to be like a mandatory.
Right.
Test
Is that a
day.
political thing?
I think it was the former staff, but I'm working with Mr. Preston right
Yeah.
now. So hopefully by after the school break, we can actually get it in there. And for the kids who want to test, just to see kind of where they're at.
Right.
If it is something that interests them, they can see their scores, and if they score well enough, I can at least talk to them and tell them their options, and if they do. Because you can join in school, you can be a junior and do the split option training. So split option training, you could join your junior year, and then the summer you'd ship the basic training, you'd come back for your senior year, and you'd drill throughout your whole school year. One weekend a month, you just drill with the unit. And then the next summer you go to your job training, like your AIT, so whatever job skill that you pick, you go that summer and then you'd be done. So it's nice because your contract starts, so you get paid like a drill, your normal drill pay for school, so you get a couple $100 for gas money, for a little bit different way of going about a job through school, but that time counts on your contract too, so it takes away like almost 2 years for some people for their contract.
When you said 30 days within your birthday, is that before your birthday?
Yep. Yep. So you can be 16, but it's got to be within 30 days of your 17th birthday to do all the paperwork. Other questions? Did you hand out all the goodies from last time?
Oh, no, we're putting them into we have a little
Okay.
store, yep.
We'd like to thank you for coming down to us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
We'd also like to put your picture on our wall out there.
Okay. Yeah, thank you guys. I'll try to stop by more often, just
Yeah.
in and out. If you have any questions, just let me know. If you have anything that needs to be made up, I can do posters and all sorts of cool red, white, and blue stuff. Just let me know. And then I'm in BFA quite a bit, so next year when you are in high school, try to stop by. Don't be a stranger. Don't act like a teenager. But thank you, and I look forward to coming back.
We're going to put we've recorded this, and it's going to go on channel 15 and on our website, that's okay?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah, I actually watched the one that's on Macola and it's on the last recruiter.
Yeah?
I kind of had an idea.
Good.
Perfect.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you.